Good afternoon to you and welcome to the live broadcast of the Senate proceedings. This being the very first day of the month of March, the year is 2023, a broadcast made possible through the collaboration between the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit. My name is Gladys Mungai and I'll be taking you through the highlights in the order of business this afternoon. There is a lot for consideration before senators this afternoon, and to just give you some of the motions given priority in the order paper this afternoon is that the Chairperson Standing Committee on Matters Finance and Budget will be moving a motion on the adoption of the report of the Standing Committee on Finance on the 2023 medium-term debt management strategy, that the Senate does adopt the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the 2023 medium-term debt management strategy. And this particular report was laid on the table of the Senate yesterday afternoon. Another motion for consideration by members is the adoption of the report of the Standing Committee on Matters Budget, and senators will be resuming debate on this particular motion on finance and budget on the 2023 budget policy statement. This particular motion is equally by the Chairperson Standing Committee on Matters Finance and Budget. The Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Amendment Bill, Bill number 5 of the year 2022, by Senator Danson Mungatana, is a bill that senators will be making their input on in this afternoon session, and so is the County Vocational Education and Training Bill, Bill number 3 of the year 2022. The Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill, a bill originally from the Senate, a bill by Senator Danson Mungatana, is a bill that senators will be considering this afternoon. Another bill by Senator Mungatana is a Preservation of Human Dignity and Enforcement of Economic as well as Social Rights Bill, this being Senate Bill number 7 of the year 2022. The provision of free sanitary towels to end period poverty is a motion before senators this afternoon by nominated Senator Gloria Oruoba. The senator for Marsabit County has a motion on the institution of measures to curb the incessant high electricity costs in Kenya. They're aware of energy is an essential factor of the production of total consumption as a major determinant of performance of the economy, with its cost and reliability spurring and stifling economic growth. There has been a significant growth in the demand of electricity in Kenya, and this demand is driven by economic growth and increased efforts towards rural electrification. And while the supply has been constrained, and this is due to other factors, and over-reliance on hydroelectric power generating from plants that have been negatively impacted by the perennial drought experience in the country. Noting, therefore, that there has been imbalance in the demand and supply of power, coupled by payments by Kenya Power and Lighting Company, and this is for the produced power not consumed by, and also matters fluctuation in the foreign exchange rates contributing to the high cost of electricity. The House will be considering that particular motion. The Speaker of the Senate is in the chambers this afternoon. I now hand over for the live broadcast. Enjoy your viewing. Rube.
Whom we have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advise the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and to those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Sergeant at times, kindly ring the bell for 5 minutes.
The quorum bell is currently on, and this is following the fact that the Senate doesn't have the requisite numbers to transact business this afternoon, and that particular bell you can hear from your end follows a directive by the Speaker, Emerson Kingi, that the quorum bell rings for quite some time, and this is provided for in the standing orders for 10 minutes to allow for more senators to make their way into the chamber this afternoon. Enhancing highway safety and convenience is another motion that is set for consideration by senators this afternoon, and this particular motion is by the Nyeri Senator Wahome Wamatinga and Senator Mohamed Faki, the senator for Mombasa, that are aware of 67% of road crash facilities, or fatalities rather, and injuries in the country comprises of the economically productive age groups of between 15 and 64 years, and that the importance of good post-crash care reduces deaths and disability, as well as suffering for road crash survivors, and creates the urgent need for effective emergency medical care system. And this is as well as elements and processes on our highways.
I want to confirm that we do have quorum, and therefore we shall proceed with the business of the day today. Clerk, first order, please.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon, visiting students from the Karatina University Political Science Association, KUPSA. The delegation comprises of 40 students who are in the Senate for a one-day academic exposition and workshop. I will proceed to read their names so that we know exactly who they are. And once I call out your name, kindly be upstanding so that the senators can acknowledge you. Patrick Ndungu Wangui. Sangsi Shadrach. Lynette Akoth. Jackson Karanja Karuiru. Caroline Muthura. Hamston Okwach. Peace Maina. Emmanuel Ndungi. Vincent Karanja. Zakaria Ombati. Kiprotich Kipchumba. Elijah Mwangi. Abong Samson Ochieng. Mark Collins Kalama. Solomon Diritu. Weres Talon. Kevin Uhuru, Mary Wambui, Bromik Russell, Alvin Kinyo Mwangi, Frederick K. Ngetich, Enoch Makori Ogamba, Sherry Adhiambo Rodi, Kavirian Otieno, Emmanuel Kipchumba, Barasa Nyongesa Javan, Peter Kingori, Wilkster Awori, Maslin Thuo, Kageni Mwende, Cynthia Kawira, Viola Jerop, Veronica Katumo, Christine Lepir, Margaret Waithera, Harrington Epae, Nelson Kamau, Eva Macharia, Job Makone, and lastly Franklin Obinchu. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, honorable senators, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. I will allow Senator Wamatinga to welcome the delegation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for hosting the students from Karatina University Political Science Group. Mr. Speaker, sir, Karatina University is one of the new institutions in Kenya that is situated at the slopes of Mount Kenya. As you've noticed, reading out the names, Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a composition of students from across the country. It is the face of Kenya. And these being political science students, Mr. Speaker, sir, these are the readers we are looking upon tomorrow to deliver this country to where we want it to be. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is indeed in these institutions of higher learning that we are anchoring the future of this country. It is our hope and our prayer that the students will take this opportunity to learn as much as they can do and take it home, so that as they prepare to take the next level of leadership in this country, they'll have learned a lot. It is also my pressure, Mr. Speaker, sir, to congratulate the students of Karatina University. It is an environment that's very, very conducive, lying in the middle of a tea-growing area. Karatina University prides itself being one of the leading institutions that has endeavored to put environmental studies in a rightful place, especially in the wake of climate change in this country. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, I take this opportunity to welcome the students, and on my behalf and constituents of NARRICK County, I want to thank you for organizing yourself into an effective group and wanting to learn more, because tomorrow belongs to those who will grab the opportunity and get what it takes, like in education and the skills that they learn along in life to take this country forward. I would also want, Mr. Speaker, sir, to thank the students of Karatina University for overwhelmingly having elected the Kenya Kwanza government and supporting it and putting it in place. And on my behalf, Mr. Speaker, sir, let me also thank them for supporting me to be the Senator of Nyeri, and I'll be looking forward after this to have a word with them. Thank you very much and welcome to the Senate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honourable Senators, I have a further communication to make. I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon, a visiting delegation from the County Assembly of Vihiga. The delegation comprises members of the County Assembly of Vihiga who are on a one-day study tour with the County Public Investment and Special Funds Committee of the Senate. Honourable Senators, I request each member of the delegation to stand when called out so that he may be acknowledged in the Senate traditional way. Honourable Vincent Atsia, Minority Leader. Atsiaya, that's the Minority Leader. The Honourable Paul Tiira, Deputy Minority Leader and Vice Chair of the Public Accounts and Investment Committee. Honorable David Onjiri, Chairperson, Environment and Water Committee. The Honorable Michelle Sticker, Vice Chairperson, Environment and Water Committee. And lastly, Rachel Siamba, CEO, Public Accounts and Investment Committee. On behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome and wish you a fruitful visit here at the Senate. I will call upon Senator Osotsi to give welcoming remarks to the delegation from Vihiga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honorable members of County Assembly of Vihiga for paying us a visit. Mr. Speaker, the honorable members have just attended a meeting of the County Public Investment and Special Funds Committee, where we are looking into the issues of Amadzi Water Company. And they played a big role in supporting the committee in that regard. Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage this kind of partnership between the Senate and the County Assembly, especially in our committees. When we are looking at matters, various matters in our committees, I think it is a good practice to invite the leaders of the relevant committee, because they have primary information on some of those things. Mr. Speaker, the MCAs play a big role in oversight. They perform primary oversight, and as a Senate, we need to strengthen that role, because if primary oversight does not work, then definitely secondary oversight will have challenges. Mr. Speaker, as I'm talking to you now, I am very depressed because SRC has mishandled MCAs. They reduced significantly their salaries, and now SRC is asking MCAs to pay additional tax on reimbursed carburants. I think, honorable senators, this is a matter that I want to kindly ask that we need to have a conversation around it, because we cannot see our partners in oversight process being frustrated by a constitutional body that is supposed to promote the rights of all of us. So I think Honorable Cheregei is very good in these things. We will look into it to see that MCAs who live in the villages, who interact with our people on a daily basis, are living decent lives and are able to perform the oversight role in a dignified manner, so that they can support our role as our role under Article 96 to protect counties. Mr. Speaker, I welcome the Honorable MCAs to this House. Thank you.
What is the point of order, Senator Boni?
Nothing is out of order. I'm just rising to seek for your indulgence because of the beautiful mosaic of our community. The MCAs in the gallery now are just as much as they are my MCA as they are for the Senator Osotsi, if I could just acknowledge him, sir.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, allow me to send the MCAs to go and greet the governor and the rest of the MCAs back home. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, I would like to urge the MCAs to deliberately create partnership with the MCAs of Kakamega, especially for purposes of realizing cross-cutting projects. Like now, we have a road which we have fixed on the Kakamega side, but from the Eregi Junction all the way to Chandumba, we do not have the tarmac. This speaks to the fact that the county government of Kakamega is not talking to the county government of Vihiga and vice versa. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I would like them to go with the good news to the people back home that I've just held consultations with government and gone out of my way to ensure that the road from Majengo all the way to Hamisi, Shamahoho, Kaimosi, all the way to Muhudu, Museno, and Uine-Kolomani will be fixed in this financial year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, what is your point of order, Senator Chirange?
Mr. Speaker, as I'm seeking your indulgence, since I'm the Vice Chair of Public Accounts Committee in the Senate, and I can see there is my counterpart of the Vice Chair of Public Accounts from Vihiga, I want to extend a warm welcome on your behalf and also to our committee. I think they went to Public Investment Committee. As Public Accounts Committee, Mr. Speaker, sir, will be more gracious to host on your behalf and guide upon the support of your office. Secondly and finally, Mr. Speaker, as my brother Senator Otsotsi, SRC is on a mission not only to kill MCAs but to dismember them. Because how do you put tax on a car grant? And that is why I said yesterday, SRC is nowadays usurping powers that does not belong to them. The SRC role, Mr. Speaker, is just to advise. If we are not careful, in the words of a famous philosopher, it will be like when they came for the MCA, no one spoke for them. When they come for governors, no one spoke for them. When it will come before the Senate, Mr. Speaker, there will be no one to speak for us. That is why MCAs are grassroots leaders. Mr. Speaker, you have experience of more than 10 years as a governor. And you know the first line, whenever a problem happens in the village, the first person, if it is funeral arrangement, Mr. Speaker, pre-wedding, wedding, even baby showers and birthday parties, the first line of defense for ordinary Mwananchi is to rush to a local MCA. And Mr. Speaker, MCAs play a very critical role, and I want to appeal to government. I saw my MCAs, they were complaining that the TSC director was calling them out when they went to his office, even demanding that they kneel before the director of TSC so that they can be served, Mr. Speaker. This shows the disdain attitude that the SRC continues to show towards Mr. Speaker, towards the MCAs, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, SRC must be stopped on their tracks. It is unconstitutional and illegal what they are doing, and we will stand with the MCAs, Mr. Speaker, finally, because if you cripple MCAs, Mr. Speaker, you are crippling devolution. Because if they don't have resources, facilities that they can do primary oversight at the county or grassroots level, Mr. Speaker, is very unfortunate. And therefore, I want to assure the MCAs that they have the blessings and the commitment of the Senate towards ensuring their welfare, to facilitate them to serve their people, Mr. Speaker. So I wish them well, and I hope Senator Otsosi will be gracious enough to ensure I sign their T. When you give us, when we'll be on recess, I don't mind signing their T on their behalf, because I notice a number of them, Mr. Speaker, they are members also of Kenya Kwanza. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for this honor.
Thank you. Enough of that order. Next order, clerk.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Honorable Senators, I hereby report to the Senate that a petition has been submitted to the Senate by Mr. John Suma concerning eviction and demolition of the Buxton Estate, Movita constituency in Mombasa County. As you're aware, under Article 1191 of the Constitution, and I quote, "Every person has a right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including enacting, amending, or repealing any legislation." Honorable Senators, the silent issues raised in this petition are as follows. 1, that the petitioners were residents of Buxton Estate, owned by the county government of Mombasa until 5th March 2021, when they were evicted by the county government inspectorate personnel. 2, that in the year 2016, the county government of Mombasa formulated a Vision 2035 project which sought to modernize the county housing estates. Buxton Estate was one of the estates, and the residents moved to court to challenge the project, as there was neither public participation conducted on the project, nor did the resettlement plan comply with the law. 3rd, that the Land and Environment Court ordered the developer to provide a resettlement plan that would comply with the law. However, the developer did not comply with the court order. That in the year 2020, a new bid to modernize the estates was awarded to a different developer from that of the year 2016. The developer conducted public participation. However, the concerns raised by residents of Buxton Estate were not properly addressed. 5th, that the residents moved to court and sought injunctive orders to stop the project until the issues were addressed. However, the court dismissed the injunction application. Thereafter, the county inspectorate started the demolition of the estate on the 5th March 2021, and that the petitioners sought redress from the Mombasa County government. However, their grievances for compensation and resettlement have not been addressed to date. The petitioner therefore prays that the Senate intervenes in this matter with a view to ensuring that the residents of Buxton Estate are compensated and resettled in accordance with the law. Now, Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 237, I shall now allow comments, observation, or clarifications in relation to the petition for not more than 30 minutes. Now that we only have 30 minutes, I propose we limit the speech or comments or contribution per speaker or per senator at 3 minutes, so that we can have as many of you contributing to this petition. Senator Mungatana.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to this petition. Mr. Speaker, Buxton is a place in whose neighborhood I grew up. When I was young, my father used to work in Mombasa. And so Buxton is a place we used to have friends, and it's a neighborhood that is familiar with me. Mr. Speaker, the issues that this petition wishes to address are critical. The biggest question is the compensation of the people who were originally living there. Mr. Speaker, they were paying very little money to the municipal government, which now is the county government. The county government has come up with this program of PPP, and they want to modernize the place. Mr. Speaker, I truly support the fact that a private developer has come to improve that neighborhood. Mr. Speaker, for those who lived in Mombasa in those years when we were younger, that Buxton area is totally different from what it is today. Mr. Speaker, new model housing, modern housing, beautiful housing, very beautiful places are coming up. And Mr. Speaker, looking from the drawings of the architecture and the way the project is progressing, I think we should encourage the finishing to completion of that project so that people can see the new face of Buxton and the new county picture. It's a beautiful place. But Mr. Speaker, they must balance that with the compensation of the individuals who have been displaced. They must balance that with the families that have lived in those estates for forever, because it used to be the father who is working in the county government gives the house to his son, the son gives it to his son, and it used to go like that because it was controlled rentals and the payments were very, very, very small. But Mr. Speaker, having said all this, I pray that this petition, as it is referred to the relevant committee, Mr. Speaker, they give a balanced opinion so that the development does not stop, but at the same time, the views of the people are accommodated and the compensation issues are addressed, because
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know this petition is properly before the House, but the content almost sounds like it is frivolous. Because, Mr. Speaker, Buxton Estate as we know it is not ancestral land. People who have had the opportunity to stay in these houses, when they come of age and they retire, they should not then start looking at such public property as theirs, whereupon they insist that they hand them over to their children and the children of their children, to the extent that today, the governor of Mombasa, Joho, former, had grand ideas of improving and modernizing housing in Mombasa. And people want to stand in his way so that we are using our cities improperly. If anything, this Senate should help the County Assembly of Mombasa and help the government of Mombasa to move these people out so that the new houses are constructed, and if they want a stake, they can be given the first charge on an opportunity to own a flat within the improved the construction, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, having said this, you know, Senator Cherargei, he comes from a place where the only time they come
Senator
to Mombasa...
Boni, proceed with your contribution.
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge him, that he should leave, those of us who know Kenya, speak to Kenyan issues. He only came to Nairobi when he was coming to the university. This one, I know him. Mr. Speaker, sir, on a very serious note, if you go to an island like the island in Hong Kong, they have made maximum use of the island. I would expect that an estate like Buxton and other estates on the island should have...
I'm afraid the time is up.
I support.
Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't want to get into the bullfighting. for now. Mr. Speaker, what I want to support the petitioners. This petition is properly before the House. Mr. Speaker, what we are having in this country is unfortunately what we call infrastructural evictees. We have to use to forest evictees, we have had squatters. In this country, we are creating another set of evictees, and they are called infrastructural evictees, Mr. Speaker. This issue of Buxton has appeared before the Senate before, and I am sitting next to the chair of transport, and I was asking him where he can cross-check his Lakers report and see where there is the issue of Buxton. This is the human rights abuse. The basics and tenets of human rights, Mr. Speaker, is access to proper housing and affordable. And the law is very clear. If Mombasa County government or any agency wants to evict people of Buxton, they must be compensated. If it is about compulsory acquisition, the Constitution is very clear. There is no two-way about it. And I hope my majority whip is taking notes, because I am a working Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal to government and even agencies. I saw, Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal to government agencies. Before you evict people, like what happened in Ruai, in this city every day, let us follow the law. Don't just evict Kenyans for the sake of experience, Mr. Speaker. Even if the president wants the affordable housing to succeed, and we suppose the president to do that, Mr. Speaker, let it be done in humane manner, compensation, follow the rule of law, Mr. Speaker, and therefore I support this petition, and I hope when it comes, we can be invited to be part of the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wafula.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Jambo ambalo linadhihirika wazi katika yale ambayo tunajadili ni kwamba kuna viongozi dhalimu ama serikali dhalimu ambazo hazifuati sheria, ama wananchi wanapoenda kotini na uamuzi unachukuliwa, wao jitwika mzigo wa kiubabe na kuwafurusha wananchi kutoka makazi yao. Mimi naomba kwamba japo serikali ya kaunti inataka kubadilisha sura ya kaunti, lazima wawe na utu mioni mwao, wawe na kile tunasema kuhusishwa kwa wananchi katika mjadala wa kukubali kwamba mradi huo unatosha, kisha wapeane maeneo mbadala pale ambapo wananchi hawa watahamia, na vile vile wakubaliane na wananchi kwamba tunapohama mahali hapa, mradi utakapokamilika tupewe nafasi ya kwanza kuishi katika maeneo haya. Ukiangalia katika maeneo kadhaa nchini Kenya, wale ambao furusha hawapewi nafasi, na wale ambao wanajenga miradi hii huwa na vikundi vile ambavyo tunasema kwa kimombo cartels, ambao mradi unapokwisha watu washagawana vyumba, wameanza kuishi kabla miradi jaisha. Sasa haya ambayo wameleta kwenye bunge ni mambo ambayo yanaendelea hivi sasa katika maeneo mbalimbali ya kaunti, kwa sababu makaunti yanawaza kwamba jinsi serikali ya Kenya Kwanza inaenda kujenga vyumba mbalimbali kwa wananchi, ni haki kwao kuwafurusha watu haraka haraka ili wanufaike na pesa za serikali. Lazima utu uwepo, lazima sheria ifuatwe, lazima watu wahusishwe, na kila mtu apate haki yake katika nchi ya Kenya. Sasa mimi naunga mkono yale ambayo watu hao wanaleta kwenye Senate, na naomba tume ambayo ama kamiti ambayo inahusika na mambo haya iende ndani kwa kina, ihakikishe kwamba Mkenya halalamiki wala haangaiki kujivunia kwa Mkenya. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Veronica Maina.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for this opportunity. I am very conversant with the Buxton estate, having worked in Mombasa for over 10 years and actually lived within the Buxton estate. And it is true, there was a good intention. There is a good intention to modernize that estate, and it's an important step towards helping Kenyans achieve or realize the second generation of rights, which form part of what is accorded to citizens under the Constitution of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, however, we have seen a trend in Kenya where when people are required to move out of a certain zone for upgrade or development of housing units, we have very violent evictions happening or forceful removal of citizens from areas where they're supposed to pave way for development, Mr. Speaker, sir. Now, the purpose of public participation is, first of all, to note the concerns that are raised by residents in such an area. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, my concern would be that public participation may have been conducted, but those concerns are just simply left in the shelves or in the books. Mr. Speaker, sir, we should develop a trend where before those developments happen, those issues are addressed, and compensation of anybody who is moved out should be mandatory, and failure to which then they get a right to be among the first people to be assigned those units that will be developed, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I believe, Mr. Speaker, sir, this petition is properly before this House, and I support the petition by the residents of Buxton that these issues be addressed, so that the same kitty that is paying for the development of these units should be able to cater for what needs to be compensated to anyone who's been moved out and whose rights will be extinguished upon the upgrade being done, Mr. Speaker, sir. Therefore, I rise to support the petition and to affirm the rights of residents or any person who has lived in an area who requires compensation to be granted and awarded that compensation as development is happening to upgrade. But the upgrade is a good thing. It's a promise of Kenya Kwanza government to Kenyans, and it should be allowed to continue, but while respecting the rights of the citizens.
Senator Kinyua.
Asante Bwana Spika. Nimesikiza dua hiyo kwa makini sana Bwana Spika. Na nilipokuwa nikisikiza nikasikia malalamishi na malalamiko ya wale ambao waliokuwa wanaongea. Lakini Bwana Spika, jambo ambalo limenistua ni kiranja wetu alioko hapa. Kwa sababu yeye namjua ni mtetezi wa walalahoi na wanyonge. Bwana Spika, mimi vile ambavyo najua serikali yetu ya Kenya Kwanza imekuja kwa kauli mbiu ya kutetea walalahoi na wanyonge. Huo ndio msimamo wetu dhabiti. Na sina shaka pangu rohoni ninatetea, na nikisema ya kwamba Bwana Spika, ukiangalia hawa watu wa Buxton pale pwani ni watu ambao wako pale kihalali, kwa sababu ikiwa mzazi wa mtu ameishi pale, mtoto amekuja akaishi pale, wajukuu hata na vitukuu, Bwana Spika, hata ijapokuwa serikali inasema ya kwamba wanataka kuwajengea nyumba zinazofaa, lakini ni vizuri waulizwe, kwa sababu sheria yetu ya Kenya inasema ni vizuri watu wahusishwe kabla jambo lote halijafanywa. Kwa sababu usipowahusisha Bwana Spika, hata sheria yenyewe inasema haupaswi kufanya vizuri, uzuri ule unapaswa kuonekana umefanywa, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri wale watu wa Buxton wahusishwe, Bwana Spika, wanapaswa kuwa wamepewa. Na ukiangalia sheria zetu za Kenya zinasema tuwapewe nyumba, malezi mazuri, na ni jukumu ya serikali Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo hawaombi dua kando na maneno ambayo yanasemwa kisheria. Nimesikia Senator Cheregai, na ni kweli Senator Cheregai kwa kimasuala ya kisheria yeye amebombea, sina shaka rohoni, na amesema na mimi namuunga mkono. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri ombi hilo na kamati ambayo itashughulikia haya mambo waangalie kwa kindani, na si huko peke yake Bwana Spika. Kuna watu wengi katika Jamhuri ya Kenya wanaoishi maisha ya kusononeka na maisha ya uchochole Bwana Spika, na ni vizuri waangaliwe wote. Kamati ambayo najua itashughulikia haya mambo iangalie haya mambo kwa kindani, na sisi wote tuangalie katika sehemu zote ambazo tunataka. Bwana Spika, kwetu Laikipia shida tulionayo, ukienda mahali panaitwa Marmanet, kuna watu walifurushwa makwao, sasa wanaishi katika barabara, mahali ambapo hakuna choo, hakuna shule. Unawaangalia Bwana Spika, unashindwa kama wanaishi Jamhuri ya Kenya. Kwa hivyo kusiangaliwe Buxton peke yake Bwana Spika, watembelee sehemu zingine, waje Laikipia, waende Rumuruti, waende mahali kunaitwa Majengo na Nyuki, paka Maina Village, kwa sababu hawa ni wa Kenya na ni jukumu ya serikali kuwalinda na kutetea maisha ya wananchi wa Kenya. Bwana Spika, mimi naunga mkono hiyo dua.
Senator Hamida, I can see you've pressed for intervention. Proceed.
Asante Bwana Spika, na mimi nataka kuunga mkono. Bwana Spika, na zungumzia nikiwa na uchungu sana. Buxton ni nyumbani. Nyanya yangu, tasema ni bibi yangu kwa Kiswahili kile kingine, ameishi hapo zaidi ya miaka 50 na ametolewa. Nikizungumza hii nasikia mpaka niko na emotions, samahani kwa kuchanganyisha Bwana Spika, lakini wameumia sana watu wa Buxton. Kwa sasa wote walifurushwa na kule walipelekwa, na chochote kile walipewa, kusema kweli ilikuwa ni duni sana ya wao kuweza kupata nafasi ya kuweza kupata mahali pengine. Kusema kweli naunga mkono sana kwa hii petition ya kuwa lazima wao waweze kuangaliwa, waweze kusaidiwa na wapate nafasi ili wapate nafasi nzuri ya kuishi vile walikuwa wameishi Bwana Spika. Nyumba zenyewe Bwana Spika tangu hapo zilikuwa zimedhoofika na watu walitumia pesa nyingi kwa wingi sana kuweza kujaribu kutengeza nyumba zao na saa zile walikuwa wanaondolewa nyumba walikuwa wameshazitengeza vilivyo na hawakulipwa. Zile pesa walipewa hazikutosha ile kiwango kile walitumia. Kwa hivyo naunga mkono. Buxton ni nyumbani, watoto wetu, ndugu zangu wengine wamezaliwa hapo, na naomba kusema kweli wa Kenya watusaidie, wengine tuunge mkono sote kwa watu wa Buxton wapewe nafasi yao na wapewe hadhi zao. Watu wengi wale walikuwa wamefanya kazi walikuwa hata wamesha retire wakiwa bado Buxton, wakiwa vijana mpaka wameretire. Kwa hivyo hadhi zao pia waweze kushikiliwa, kuwa na wao pia waishi kama watu wengine. Asante Bwana Spika, na mimi naunga mkono.
Senator Asige Crystal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this motion. Mr. Speaker, Mombasa is my home county. As you know, I was born and I was raised there until I actually just moved to Nairobi recently. And Mr. Speaker, another reason why Buxton and this petition is so close to my heart is because my father, when he was just a young lawyer, just after passing the bar, Senior Counsel Jeff Asige bought and rented his first accommodation right there at Buxton. That's where I met my beautiful mother, and that's where they started their family. And here I am. Mr. Speaker, I am trying to illustrate the generational wealth that has come about in Buxton Estate. It's not just a place, as you know, that is just a transit area. It is very central to Mombasa and has had generations of families growing up there and building their lives there and building their wealth there, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when you move somebody out of their accommodation that they have rightfully owned and pursued, Mr. Speaker, it brings to questions. It brings into question natural justice. Mr. Speaker, housing is a right, as you know, and having people being moved out without public participation, without inclusive public participation, whereby their views and their worries are taken into account, and for them to be compensated equitably, Mr. Speaker, becomes a huge problem. I personally, Mr. Speaker, know of persons with disabilities living in Buxton. Right now, they're the ones who are suffering probably more than the non-disabled who may be living in Buxton at the moment because of this petition and this eviction that is happening. Mr. Speaker, I wonder how much public participation that has been inclusive when developers have been speaking to the residents of Buxton. Have they been considering persons with disabilities, how they need to be moved, where they need to be placed that is accessible, Mr. Speaker, how they need to be given reasonable adjustments so that when they are moved for temporary purposes, then their needs and their challenges are not further exacerbated by this, by the issues stated in this petition. Mr. Speaker, I absolutely support this motion, and I want to assure persons with disabilities that I know personally that are living in Buxton that I will continue to support the motion however where I can. And Mr. Speaker, I wish that persons with disabilities, especially that are living in Buxton right now, would be given a fair opportunity and a dignified temporary accommodation. Thank you.
Senator Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, prior to 2010, it was not possible for any Kenyan facing such situations to have support from Parliament. Our 2010 Constitution, Mr. Speaker, under Article 119, is really helping the Kenyan people to be assisted by this House in a situation like the one which happened in Mombasa, in Coast. Mr. Speaker, the petitioners really agree that the land belongs to the county government of Mombasa. Their concern is the manner in which the eviction was undertaken, without due regard to notice, without regard to decency and respect for rights of the people. And Mr. Speaker, this is really very unfortunate, not only in Mombasa, but in very many parts of our country, Mr. Speaker. So I just want to support that this House, Mr. Speaker, shall be the refuge of the citizens that are being affected the way it is happening in this particular situation. And I would like to call upon all organs of government, whether national government, county governments, Mr. Speaker, that it is important that we execute this kind of situations in a very humane way, so that, Mr. Speaker, we safeguard the dignity of our people. Because, Mr. Speaker, when you evict people, you disrupt their lives completely, their children, and even the old population in that particular situation. So, Mr. Speaker, it is important that we have regard for the well-being of our people. And I want to support this, and I believe that this House and the committee responsible will take the responsibility, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the residents of Mombasa affected shall have their compensation adequately, so that, Mr. Speaker, they feel proud of being Kenyans and being protected by the Constitution 2010. I support, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Tabitha Karocha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, and I rise to support the petition for the Buxton residents, and I really want to sympathize with them, because I come from an area that is Nakuru County, where a lot of IDPs, that's where they are. And up to this minute, none has ever been compensated. So mine is just to request how the Buxton people will be compensated, as I'm working to bring a petition in this House to ensure that our people who suffered all this time, the Nakuru County people, even after post-election violence, there are so many the people who are misplaced. And I know during our campaign with His Excellency, the President, Dr. William Ruto, he promised that they will be compensated. But even as we are waiting for that, I'm going to table a petition so that we can quicken the process, because if you go and see where these people are living, it's really devastating, and they should be compensated with immediate effect. And I really wish that we don't keep on having people get to suffer like the way we've seen our Nakuru people suffer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wamatinga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. As much as I realize, I have a mixed feeling whether I should support or oppose. Mr. Speaker, sir, this government is talking about building 100 dams that will be constructed in lands that belong to communities. What we know is that rich individuals have gone out where infrastructure development are taking place. They buy land for speculative purposes and then won't wait until the projects come, then they ask for compensation. It is the high time, Mr. Speaker, sir, we as a House look at the issue of compensation, because development, as much as it is needed, it must be built on a certain piece of land. It is really unfortunate that we Kenyans have been held hostage. Any development that's coming, we have these people, Mr. Speaker, sir, getting the big chunk of money, now going into the new approach of private-public partnership. Mr. Speaker, sir, the question arises, how do you address the issue of compensation in an equation where you're bringing in investor? Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is my request to this House that we look at this issue with a lot of sobriety. We ask ourselves, moving forward, and we need development, how do we get it? If we make land such an emotive issue that is so costly that it makes it unaffordable for investors that we are trying to attract. As much as I support the people to be moved and in a humane way, I also think that it's high time we start looking at the issue of land and actually detaching it from the emotional attachment that has been associated with it. This is not a social welfare state where we must be able to pay for everything. And at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, sir, when we talk about people of Pakistan, maybe we are talking about a few rich people who went ahead and secured the houses. It is not the tenants who benefit, Mr. Speaker, sir. I think that it is high time that we start looking at the issue of compensation, approaching it with a lot of sobriety if we want to move this country forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I arise to actually support this petition because if you read the petition, what the petitioners have said, from 2021, the county government of Mombasa started moving them out. They went to court. The magistrate did not give them an injunction. I don't know why the magistrates were not lenient, because if these people have been there for the last over 50 years, they should have been given adequate time to move out. And the county government, because they're the owners of the buildings and also they own the land, they would have given them an alternative place to move to. If there's no alternative place to move to, they give them enough time, enough notice, they move out, and then they sign an MOU so that as soon as the affordable houses are built, they are given priority number one to move back to the units, maybe one flat, and then also give them discount, because they have emotional attachment. From what our colleagues have said, they've been there, relatives have been there for more than 50 years. And as you stay in a place for long, you have a lot of attachment. I know Madaraka Estate here in Nairobi, it was owned also by Nairobi City Council those days, but along the way, National Housing and the City County had issues and they sold to the owners. So I believe even the people of Buxtan expected the houses to be sold to them, but because we are going to do Kenya Kwanza, the government is going to do affordable houses and maybe more high-rises, maybe 10, 15 or so floors, and they could not sell to one particular person. Let's give them opportunity. Mombasa County now have a new governor, so maybe the residents also need to renegotiate, because maybe the other governor, the outgoing governor, did not listen to them. Let them talk also as a house. As the petitioners are invited and also the county government is invited, we call the governor of Mombasa and we deal with this thing with speed so that our people don't continue to suffer. Honorable Speaker, I support the petitioners.
Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 238-1, the petition should be committed to the relevant standing committee for its consideration. In this case, I direct that the petition be committed to the Standing Committee on Roads, Transport and Housing. In terms of Standing Order 238-2, the committee is required in not more than 60 calendar days from the time of reading the prayer to respond to the petition by way of a report addressed to the petitioner and laid on the table of the Senate. I thank you. Next order, clerk.
Order number 5, papers.
Before I call the majority leader to lay the papers, honorable senators, allow me to make a further communication. I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon, a visiting delegation from the County Assembly of Makueni. The delegation comprises staff of the County Assembly of Makueni who are in the Senate on a one-week study visit. Honorable Senators, I request each member of the delegation to stand when called out so that you may be acknowledged in the Senate traditional way. Mr. Francis Muvengei, Assistant Director ICT, Ms. Winfred Kinguli, Principal Communication and Media Relations Officer. On behalf of the Senate, on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome to and wish you a fruitful visit. I thank you. Let me allow Senator Boni, on behalf of the leadership of the Senate, to make very brief welcome remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that recognition. Mr. Speaker, for purposes of record, I am not the Senator of Makueni, but I'm privileged to be a friend of the people of Makueni. Mr. Speaker, I welcome our visitors and remind them the turbulent times when the county government of Makueni was starting in the year 2013-14, thereabout, when there was an attempt for paralysis of the services of the county. Together with your Senator, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., and other senators here, James Orengo and others, we stood firm and made sure that your government succeeded. That commitment, take it back home and tell them that we shall do everything to ensure that Makueni succeeds. And what's more, your current governor has left an indelible mark in the legislative agenda of this Senate, and therefore we will be able to do for him as governor what he did for other counties when he was senator. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Tabitha Karocha, proceed to lay the papers.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate. Today, 1st March 2023. Report by the Office of the Control of Budget, COB, on first half National Government Budget Implementation Review for financial year 2022-2023. Thank you, sir.
Next order, Clerk.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
Senator Hamida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir.
I called Senator Hamida.
Oh, sorry. You know, I was expecting this.
You're getting me worried, Senator Osotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, my statement is regarding the general topic of concern on the African Fashion Week. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52.1 to make a statement on an issue of general topical concern, namely the just concluded campaign by women legislators in the Senate and the National Assembly on the African Fashion Week. Mr. Speaker, sir, during the week, the women MPs donned African wear in support of our local tailors in a campaign dubbed #support to local tailors. Hashtag again promotes African dress code. Mr. Speaker, sir, in support of this campaign, a number of us wore African dress last week for awareness creation and to support our local tailors and promote the African Week. Dress code as a vital aspect of our cultural heritage. I hope, Mr. Speaker, that it does not end here. It is essential to preserve and celebrate it. The African dress code is a rich and diverse aspect of our cultural heritage. It is an expression of our history, values, and way of life. By promoting African dresses, we preserve our cultural heritage and pass it on to future generations. Mr. Speaker, sir, the local tailors who make African dresses are an essential part of our economy. By promoting African dresses, we create jobs, empower local communities, and contribute to the economic growth of our country. The African clothing has gained recognition and appreciation on the global stage. By promoting the African dress code, we can showcase the beauty and diversity of Africa to the world and promote our country's tourism industry. Mr. Speaker, sir, I propose, therefore, that the Senate takes the following actions. 1, encourage the creation of policies and incentives that promote the use of African clothing. 2, organize fashion shows and exhibitions that showcase African dresses to create awareness, encourage people to wear them. Number 3, collaborate with local tailors to create modern and stylish African clothing that meets the needs of our contemporary society. And create awareness campaigns on social media, TV and radio to promote the African dress code. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, promoting the African dress code is essential in preserving our cultural heritage, empowering local communities, and promoting our country's tourism industry. I would, therefore, urge the Bunge fraternity, including our Secretariat, to join us in this renewed move and set aside an African Dress Day to promote diversity and demonstrate love of our heritage. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the statement and give just a small contribution on that, if that's okay.
Go ahead. Senator, go ahead.
Thank you, Senator Hamida, for bringing this motion, and I fully support it. As you can see, I am still dressed in African attire. And despite the ins and the outs of the politics that women have here in Parliament, I always say I support a cause. And I wish that other women would have that motive to support a cause. This is a very good cause, by the way. I feel that as we are pushing for the economic change in this country in terms of creating jobs, we have so many opportunities, including in this industry, in the textile industry, in the fashion industry. And if we actually Mr. Speaker, would look into the dress codes that we have, I think that our standing orders need to be renewed, or at least to give us some leeway so that we might be able to further exercise the African attire, you know, with the different elements that it comes in. I also want to say that while we are buying Kenya and supporting Kenyan locally made items, Mr. Speaker, I think that kind of push should be seen in different industries, including the sanitary towels, where we are pushing that the local manufacturers be supported. Mr. Speaker, let me just say this. It might have been a 1 week, for the senators who started it, it might have been a 1 week approach. But personally, I chose to see how long I can last, how many African attires I have in my wardrobe, and if I can push for at least a month. So if you have noted, I've been in African attire since, and I want to challenge, including our Muslim sisters, because we can find a way to get the African, Kenyan, you know, somehow, some Africanness in it, because then we can at least push the local industry in terms of textile. Otherwise, Senator Hamida, thank you for bringing this motion, the statement to the House, and I hope it is referred to our Committee of National Cohesion if it is about referring it, because there we will deal with it as it should be. So thank you.
Senator Methu.
Maybe Mr. Speaker, sir. First of all, is that I would want to at least first agree with the last statement of Senator Gloria, that it is referred to the Committee on Cohesion. I agree with the statement by Senator Hamida. The traders that we seek to support through promoting African wear are the people that we kept mentioning about when we were campaigning, especially those of us who are on the government side. For that very particular reason. And you know, Mr. Speaker, we are in a discussion and discourse, a national discourse that is there on our African values and the African nationalism. And there are many aspects to it. One then being our African attire. So, Mr. Speaker, I would be of the proposal that not just a day that we put on African attire, but that we are allowed anytime anybody wants to feel more comfortable in an African attire. Most of us are so tired in this European way of dressing. Would want to come here or attend many other formal gatherings by putting on African attire. So by that, Mr. Speaker, I would want to say that I think this is a statement that is so timely. It has my support and most importantly, the support of maybe the party that brought me to Parliament, because that is the platform that we all campaigned about. Supporting the small traders, supporting the people. Maybe they may not be Mamamboga, but they could be Mamanguo, and that will make it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Veronica.
Mr. Speaker, this is one of the best statements that I have heard since we got back from recess, Mr. Speaker, sir, because during this African Fashion Week that was done last week, Mr. Speaker, sir, we had women legislators looking their best part, Mr. Speaker, sir, and notably the dress code was fully approved by everybody that I met on the corridors of Senate, and not just in Senate, it was also it seemed to have been endorsed, fully approved, and it was with the Kenyan heartbeat, Mr. Speaker, sir. The media also picked it up, Mr. Speaker, sir, because the dress code was also going to focus on local designers, local tailors. And Mr. Speaker, sir, many people reached out to KEWOPA to commend and compliment that action by Parliament to look at locally manufactured, locally designed, locally produced dress code, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I know that maybe Kenya is still struggling with production of fabrics that could appear very African, Mr. Speaker, sir. But we have other nations in our neighborhood, Mr. Speaker, sir, West Africa, which has advanced this African dress code, Mr. Speaker, sir. Nigeria, which dresses throughout to the offices and everywhere. Tanzania, Mr. Speaker, sir. Different jurisdictions that have picked and shown confidence in their locally produced textiles and shown a lot of confidence in their tailors and designers, Mr. Speaker, sir. The campaign that was done by KEWOPA was to support locally produced goods and services. It was to support small and medium-sized enterprises, Mr. Speaker, sir, and it was contributing to employment creation, wealth creation, poverty alleviation, and income generation among the Kenyan, Mr. Speaker, sir. This was to amplify the visibility of businesses also, Mr. Speaker, sir, that are being done locally and globally by Kenyan, Mr. Speaker, sir. I noted, Mr. Speaker, sir, that our male colleagues intended to even support the campaign by dressing up in an African dress code. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, sir, in our standing orders, Mr. Speaker, sir, they were not able to define how Senator Lidama has redefined himself into wearing a Maasai cultural dress, and he gets away with it, but they did not know how they could get away with putting on an African dress code without attracting the sanction of the Speaker's seat, Mr. Speaker, sir. Now, tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have an event coming up to mark the International Women's Day at KICC. This is being celebrated ahead of the 8th of March, Mr. Speaker, sir. sir. And should the male colleagues in Senate, the honorable senators, find favor with you, Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't know whether it is possible to dispense or guide them on how they can support this African dress code as a show of Kenyans being proud to be Africans and being proud to be Kenyans and being proud to walk with their ladies and their women in this nation, Mr. Speaker, sir, to say it is time to affirm women, it is time to affirm what is African, what is in our culture, what is good in our culture, and whether, Mr. Speaker, sir, you could guide them on how they could wear the African dress code, at least for tomorrow, because the women will be once again tomorrow adorned in an African dress code as we go to celebrate the International Women's Day tomorrow at KICC, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to thank Senator Hamida for bringing this to the fore, and we hope once we stitch enough outfits, because some of us would have wanted to continue in the same dress code, but we had other challenges because of the number of outfits that were in our wardrobe. And we will continue stitching with the local tailors, because one outfit from Turkey may cost 20,000 or 25,000. But that same amount of money can stitch maybe 4 African outfits or Kenyan-made outfits. And a few people will be working on those outfits and having some form of income for the day. So I hope, Mr. Speaker, sir, in your remarks on this matter, you will allow our male colleagues to join us. They struggled a lot in the WhatsApp group asking how they could join the campaign. They can join us tomorrow for a day, and we celebrate together the empowerment of women within the Republic of Kenya and in the world at large. Thank you. So I support that statement by Senator Hamida.
Senator Kerocha.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I also want to thank Senator Hamida for bringing up this debate or this motion. Thank you so much. And mine, I'll just be ensuring or pushing to ensure that even the material that we are making those African wear, they come from here, so that we improve our textile industries, and they're not just seen there making materials that just go to abroad, and they make suits that when they come here, the prices are exaggerated. I can also attest that when I started wearing the African print, I felt more African, more Kenyan. And I'm sure the more we all support this, the more even our farmers that grow the cotton, they're going to grow more, and we are going to add value to their cotton grow. So I support Senator Hamida, and I wish all of us we can wear that African print, but let's ensure the African print is not a material imported from somewhere else. The material just comes from here, the Kenya. So I don't think you'll be so proud wearing a material that came from, it's only the tailoring that is done here. So I think our work is also to push so that we ensure that our textile industries, our farmers that grow the cotton, they can all benefit from the African print that we are wearing. And I want to thank also Kenya Kwanza, because they really positioned during our campaign the African print. I remember running and making sure mine are made night, because I had to wear the following morning. So we pushed the tailors, and I'm sure that industry, as we speak, since that campaign of the Kenya Kwanza, and it has grown more than how it was. So now coming in, all of us, and ensuring that we all wear the African print, and ensuring the material is done from here, we will grow this industry, and we will be proud to saying, buy Kenya, build Kenya. Asante. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Senators, due to the great value this statement brings, pursuant to Standing Order 52.3, I direct that the same be committed to the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. And if it need be, that committee could co-opt the Standing Committee on dealing with matters cohesion, so that we have a holistic approach. Senator Veronica, I may not direct the male senators to wear the African attire and attend the function, but they've had you. They've had you. And I know they're very reasonable men. Having had you, I know exactly what they will respond, how they will respond. But I urge our male senators, you know, we have so much influence in this country, and the very little acts that we do will go a long way to encourage others to emulate what we do. So you can imagine if all the parliamentarians converge at KICC tomorrow, donning African wear, the message will be taken with a lot of open arms, and it will encourage quite a number of people to embrace the African attire. So mine is just to urge you. I can never direct you. It's beyond the powers of the Speaker. But I urge you kindly, let's show the country that indeed as Africans we can dress ourselves and look more beautiful than the way we're in suits. When you elected me as Speaker, the first trip I was told to take was a trip to London to fit the Speaker's official attire. And I did that with a heavy heart because then independence, to me, independence means exactly that, independence. We got our independence from British, but everything we do is British. I think time has come to slowly, you know, in a very gradual manner, regain what is truly independent. So I urge you, the male senators, if we could make ourselves available, and not just making ourselves available, but available donning the African wear tomorrow. I think that would be a very big statement that the world will freeze and watch. Next order, clerk. Statement is by Honorable Senator Osotsi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries regarding the status of the National Agricultural and Rural Inclusive Project, popularly known as NARRICK, in Vihiga County. In the statement, the committee should 1. Provide a report on the total budgetary allocation towards NARRICK in the county for the financial years 2019-2020 to 2022-2023, indicating the project-specific expenditure item. 2. Explain the procurement process followed by the county when awarding tenders for the supply of goods and services, and whether the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act and other relevant regulations were strictly adhered to. 3. Provide a comprehensive report on the composition of the community-driven development committees, popularly known as CDDC, and respond to allegations that the process was not inclusive, contrary to Article 10(2)(b) of the Constitution. 4. Shed light on claims that the inadequacy of the CDDC capacity was the reason for non-compliance with the procurement laws as cited in the 2019-2020 audit report from the Office of the Auditor General, yet the project expended over 11 million shillings on training. 5. investigate allegations of corruption implicating some CDDC, county officials, and officials of the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, and World Bank, with a particular emphasis on the status of police investigation undertaken while responding to allegations of involvement of bank employees. Mr. Speaker, this is a common problem in all counties, and I think the relevant committee should take it very seriously because we cannot be appropriating money on conditional grants. Just last week, we passed some monies to be dispersed from next month and in April towards this project. And this money is just eaten by a cartel of people in the counties. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the committee and possibly the relevant oversight committee should take this matter seriously. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Asige.
Speaker, thank you. I actually had hoped that you'd have seen my request from the last statement. That was what I was pressing my mic for.
Okay. Senator Matthew.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I confirm that I pressed to speak on this particular statement. Mr. Speaker, I have had an interaction with a question that has been posed by the Senator for Vihiga on the specifics of the NARRICK project that is or has been undertaken from the donor fund. And Mr. Speaker, we then might run into a risk because myself and Senator Cherargei, who is seated here, and maybe I don't know who else, we sit in the Public Accounts Committee, and I think, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, what Senator Osotsi is seeking is something that we must give very serious consideration, and is something that the Committee on Agriculture should take up very, very quickly. Senator Duro is also here. Every county that we have interrogated in our course of duty that has an issue or had the NARRICK funding, we always got an issue in that county. And because there are many other issues that the committee is seized of on audit, some of these questions may not come out as clearly, or some of these questions may not be answered as clearly as they should, especially on these conditional grants. NARRICK is just one. There are other conditional grants that come, that are in billions. There is money for FLOCA, which is in the disbursement schedule that we passed, is approaching, I think, 7 billion. There is money for Danida, for climate change. So I would propose, Mr. Speaker, that as we allow the Committee on Agriculture to look at the issue of Vihiga, that in a supplementary request, Mr. Speaker, you expand their scope of duty to not only Vihiga, but to include every county that has been undertaking the NARRICK project. Mr. Speaker, this then will save us the time of the Senate, because I know many other senators. I know the senator for Nandi because we had an interaction with the county executive, who in a few days come again with the same statement asking that the Committee of Agriculture looks at how the NARRICK money was spent in Nandi, the NARRICK money was spent in Homa Bay, and many other counties that had this kind of funding, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg of you that as you allow the Committee on Agriculture to look at the specifics of the issue of Vihiga, because the issues are the same in every county. One of the issues that is raising is they hide behind circumventing the PFMA by opening commercial bank accounts for these particular projects. It is the same for Vihiga, it is the same for Homa Bay, it is the same for every county that has had this project. So, Mr. Speaker, so that we don't run into the risk of approving this statement every time that we sit here, expand the scope of the Committee of Agriculture to include every county that was undertaking the NARRICK project. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mtata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I stand to support the statement by Honorable Senator Osoti, and I also stand to support the comments made by Honorable Senator Methu that we should expand the scope of that statement to include all counties that have received these funds, so that we can do it once and for all, because each one of us will be coming here to ask that for our respective counties. And the committee would then give us a comprehensive statement to enable us to address that. Agriculture is the backbone of our economy, as it's always said. Most of our citizens are engaged in one form or another or the other in agricultural production, and these monies are transmitted to counties to build the capacity of production in the agricultural sector. So we really want to see what this money has done so far and whether it has been applied or spent in compliance with the law. So I strongly support the statement and the request that the same be expanded to include counties across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Wafula.
Chair, I refer to the proposed amendment by the Chairman Budget and Appropriation Committee, and I'm just wondering, when we were handling the matter at the committee level, I belong to the Committee on Blue Economy and Irrigation. Already, the said presidential decree or executive order had already been communicated, and we interrogated the Ministry of Water. We interrogated the Ministry of Irrigation. Now, I do not understand how then it comes that at the budget level, at the Budget and Appropriation Committee level, is when they are realizing that the executive order was not properly followed. Chair, I also want to just bring to the attention of the House that a number of changes have been introduced in what we had reported as a Committee of Blue Economy and Irrigation, and the additional, so much money has been brought in without the consultation of the committee, of the departmental committee. And we are really wondering, as members of the Blue Economy and Irrigation Committee, whether actually we are there to rubber stamp things that are being done without our knowledge, or what is our real role. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We've heard you, but the matter is now on the plenary of the House. And I put the question that clause 2 be amended as proposed. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that clause 2 be amended as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 3.
Does it have an amendment?
No.
I propose the question that clause 3 be part of the bill. There's no amendment to it, so therefore I proceed. I now put the question that clause 3 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary position say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 4.
Clause 4 does not have an amendment. I propose the question that clause 4 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clause 4 be part of the bill. Will as many are as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many are as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 5.
Okay. I propose the question that clause 5 be part of the bill. There's an amendment, Chair Budget. We are on clause 5. And give the Chair appropriate time. He has some business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I wish to move the amendment as it appears on the order paper. And Mr. Speaker, it is the explanation that I gave earlier. And just because I have the mic, it's good that I answer honorable members the other queries they asked in regards to the executive order and alignment. You know, man is to error, and error is to man. Actually, it had also escaped majority of us, and some of these things are checked by our own physical analyst here, and therefore there is no actually other reason other than aligning the vote to the respective agency and the respective vote that should actually be carried in this regard. And therefore there is no other reason. Secondly, in terms of additional, I want to request the member to also give some latitude, because once you bring in the reports, and actually that is what we did. We relied on the wisdom of the departmental committees. And everywhere you actually amended up to zero sum. We never interfered with all those amendments. However, when we do savings from this area or the other, and especially given the priority projects, then we had no recourse other than to allocate monies into those areas. And as you know, drought mitigation is touching on supplies of food, it is touching on water, it is touching on irrigation. And that is why you see most of the amendments are in that regard. There is no other reason, honorable member, and it's an open book.
Very well. I propose the question that clause 5 be amended as proposed. Leader.
Chair, maybe just for the Honorable Nzengu and members of the Blue Economy and Irrigation Committee, because it's a matter that has already been raised by the leadership of the committee, and maybe just for their comfort, because we were just inducted into committees the other day, and I don't think the chair, budget, and the budget committee has had an opportunity to do what we have done in previous parliaments, to have a session with all chairs of committees under the auspices of the liaison committee. But Honorable Nzengu has a point, just to reassure him, because we have discussed that issue with the chair of the committee, to just allow for now that latitude with the budget and appropriations committee. But in future, it is indeed true what the committee is raising, that matters touching on budget ought to be processed through the relevant departmental committees, so that we don't get things being parachuted into the budget without being interrogated by the committees that oversight those particular departments. And I think the Honorable Nzengu, being a good, not good old man, but a seasoned legislator, and a very seasoned member of that committee, will indulge the budget committee for this time round. Next time, we will ensure that things are done as they should.
Very well. Members, I now put the question that clause 5 Clause 5 be amended as proposed. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that Clause 5 be amended, as amended, be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
The schedules. First schedule.
Very well, honorable members. I propose the question that the first schedule be the schedule of the bill. Chair, you have got an amendment on this. The first schedule.
Thank you very much, Chair. And it appears on the order paper, I'm sure members can peruse, and I wish to make that amendment, to table that amendment as proposed in the order paper.
Very well. I propose the question that Schedule 1 be amended as proposed. Very well. I now put the question that Schedule 1 be amended as proposed. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Well, on Macau.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, allow me from the onset to thank the Committee on Budget and Appropriations for giving us ODS. And we are amending the first schedule 1 by deleting the expression Kenya shilling 300 million appearing at a program 07223000, that is General Administration, Planning and Support Services, in respect of development estimates, and substituting therefore with the expression Kenya shillings 400 million, and 2 by effecting the consequential amendments in the bill thereof. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. Attendee, let me propose the question first. I propose the question that Schedule 1 be amended as proposed by Hon Macau. Let me hear Hon Attendee.
Chair, I just wanted Hon Macau to explain further what is the intention of increasing this development expenditure.
Hon Macau, that is straight to you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, from the onset, I said that I want to thank the Committee of Budget and Appropriations. Chairman, you are all aware that the Bunge Tower has been ongoing. And Mr. Chairman, I thank also the leadership of this House and the Chairman of the Budget and Appropriation Committee that visited the new building. Chairman, you are aware that this building has taken years and years. This commission, the 6th commission, is committed to making that house be occupied. Mr. Chairman, when you look at the pending bills that have been there and that we presented to the same budget committee, Mr. Chair, there are some pending bills. And Mr. Chairman, we are glad that the same committee granted us 300 million. And now we are further seeking for 100 million that we have indicated as 100 million will come from the vote 2042. So, Mr. Chairman, as the Speaker had communicated that we are not in contravention of the same. So, Mr. Chairman, that's why we felt we should put this amendment so that we have more money. Mr. Chairman, you realize some of our members don't have offices. And by adding this money and paying the pending bills for the various contractors, we will be able to make that Bunge Tower occupiable, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, I am sure even the Honorable Latande, who was very fundamental in making PSC get this money, and the chairman, they are aware that we cannot keep on keeping that house unoccupied. Mr. Chairman, it's upon this house to make it possible that we occupy that building. And I want to assure you members that by the end of April, that house will be habitable, it will be occupiable, and our members will have their offices there, and our staff will have their offices there. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. Let me hear from the chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. And for the comfort of members, this is just the PSC reorganizing their own budget. They have reorganized their own votes, and therefore they are not encroaching on any other votes or any other person's budget or any other MDA's budget. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, we had the opportunity to interact with the PSC, with the leadership of the member for Mavoko, and we put them into task that once then we grant, because we actually granted additional resources, then this issue of the Bunge Towers must now become a thing of the past. They must now put up their socks, they make sure all the pending works are done, and the members should occupy that house as soon as it is practically possible, so that we save ourselves of the recurrent costs, Mr. Speaker, that we pay offices outside of the precincts of Parliament, and so that, Mr. Speaker, the members of this House can get decent offices. That is the essence, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman.
On Bokose, let me give you the last chance before we put the question. Bokose.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, looking at the reorganization, it does not incur an extra cost. But what I want to say is that this process of building the new tower, it is actually taken very long. And it's an embarrassment as a house that we provide oversight to other institutions, to have our own institution taking that long and tracking on with the bending bills and becoming a cash cow, maybe for other people. I think it's a right, and one time, Honorable Chair, some of us felt that the Facility and Improvement and Facility and Services Committee should be the committee that oversights the Parliamentary Service Commission for proper efficiency. Because if every institution of government has agreed that we should be subjected to oversight and they are transparent, then I think it's a high time that the Parliamentary Service Commission becomes also transparent, and it should be oversighted by a committee of this House. I raise my case, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Onelachi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to add on it and to appreciate the budget chair, but also to just tell our House that indeed it is time, first of all, Mr. Speaker, we ask the Commission to stop any other project and to now finalize with the monies that they are being given to finalize that tower and to give us dignity, so that also people don't just question. We have the pension towers here that was finished that only spent 2 billion to finalize. It is unfair for members, for their welfare, and more important, for the image of Parliament, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, as we conclude on this matter, let me allow Juan Wilberforce Oundo, very briefly.
Chair, I totally agree they need to finalize the building, the tower, but I hope in the fullness of time, Parliament or Parliamentary Service Commission will review all the leases and all the expenditures on rent, so that we don't continue losing money that we could have used for more fundamental functions or mandate of the National Assembly. But tellingly, Honorable Speaker, and I think this is a matter that Parliamentary Service Commission needs to pick up, and the chair can also pick up, there has been continued complaint that the building belonging to National Chamber of Industry and Commerce was appropriated, so to speak, by the National Assembly or Parliament. It has never used the building and they have never paid any rent. Are we facing a situation we are going to have an extremely high case of pending bill? That's a matter that needs to be addressed in fullness of time, so that as we reorganize the sitting arrangement and the space for the Parliament, we put this matter to rest, that we are not confronted with another huge pending bill in the next budget. Thank you, Chair.
Lastly, Attorney, right of reply. Let me hear from you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, Honorable Pukose has spoken for me. But what I wanted to say, Chair, is that members need beautiful offices in which they need to operate and serve Kenyans. But, Chair, we need to question PSC. That one, they are running so many programs. They start new programs before they finish the ones that are already ongoing. And the case in point is this case of our tower. This tower is been going on for many years, and this house has appropriated a lot of money for it. And we don't want PSC members to come before the house and ask for money, and there's no accountability. Therefore, I want to say that as I support that amendment, I want to urge PSC that they must account for the resources that we have given them, and especially to Budget Committee and also to this House. And also, Chair, this is also the opportunity that members have to interrogate PSC. So even if they want money, we need to ask them what they have done with the previous monies. In the Budget Committee, we had very many questions which were not answered, Chair. So even as we approve and I support, we need clear answers on some of the resources they have. We don't want PSC that is only traveling and spending per diems and not giving this House answers on programs. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I support.
Very well. I put the question that Schedule 1 be amended as proposed by Hon Macau. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that Schedule 1 be amended, as amended, be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Second schedule.
Second schedule. I propose the question that the second schedule be part of the bill. Mover? Chairman? Chair. Second schedule.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. And I wish to propose the amendments as they appear on the order paper.
I propose the question that the second schedule be amended as proposed by the Chair. I put the question that the second schedule be amended as proposed by the Chair. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now, there's another amendment. Very well. Hon Macau.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've listened to the concerns of members, but I urge these members, Mr. Chairman, to give us a benefit of doubt. This is a new commission. And Mr. Chairman, as I said, we are committed, and actually we are at the tail end of concluding this building. And Mr. Chair, therefore, I wish to amend the second schedule as it appears on the order paper, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Very well. I propose the question that Schedule 2 be amended as proposed by Hon Macau. I see Hon Ochieng.
No, thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, the Budget Committee Chair, for a good job, to the PSC for finally saying they want to finalize. I just wanted to ask Chairperson that as they do so, spare even 5 million shillings only to give us a place to walk from. Because walking from Cope Bank into Continental House is difficult. We can't walk there. I mean, as you do that, make the life of members of parliament a bit easier. You can't brush our shoes 7 times in a day, because if you go to your office in Continental House when you leave, or you go to the gym when you leave, by the time you go to parliament, you are so dusty and all that. So as you do the offices, make sure that even the walkways are done so that we're able to, some dignity for members. Thank you.
The interventions here. Nikal. Or Nikal.
Again, as I support this, and the chair of the Budget and Appropriation Committee and the other committees, they have done a good job, except now we are having a lot of generalities. You are actually increasing a budget by 100 million, and you say we are increasing because we want to get the work done. Surely, this is the time you say we are going to say buy furniture, and we are needed this money, and this is what we are going to do. And now you say this another 100 million here. Say exactly why the need was seen. I don't think in the committee they just sat and said, I think we need 100 million. There must have been something that was needed to be done. And in order to guide the House, like in this case, what exactly did we want to do with this 100 million?
Very well. On Wachira Karani, Laikipia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to intervene. I declare my interest. I'm the chair of Services and Facilities in Parliament, National Assembly. Our committee is the one that is supposed to oversight the Parliamentary Service Commission. But you have realized, Mr. Chairman, whenever we as a committee are supposed to do our work, Parliamentary Service Commission comes here and gives a statement. Like this afternoon, when the substantive speaker was on their chair, members complained about crossing over to the offices on the other side. But
proceed, but you are being challenged on the relevance of your contribution. Yes. Proceed.
Thank you very much. So I was saying it is important that the speaker gives a ruling on the boundaries between the Services and Facilities Committee and the Welfare section of the Parliamentary Service Commission. I support.
Very well. Let's hear Hon Githinji. Hon Githinji.
Thank you.
Githinji.
Thank you, Chair. Though it is within the mandate of the PSC to reorganize their floats, Mr. Chair, it's also very important for them to support with facts and to tell this House whether the amount that they are requesting now will be adequate to completely finish the House, so that we don't have another figure coming up from somewhere in the main budget, so that we can finish the issue of the tower once and for all in this supplementary budget.
Very well. Finally on this, Engineer Paul Nzengu.
Thank you, Chairman. Much as we appreciate that this is a new commission, I think this building has taken far too long, and there's a lot of money that has already been pumped in. So we need the new commission to do an audit and report to the House the state of affairs, because we are privy to information that there could be some technical issues that are causing the delay of the completion. But I support.
Finally, Hon Meli on this.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to put a point on this, especially on the Parliamentary Service Commission. It has taken them far too long, about over 10 years, almost 15 years before the building is up. We need actually them to come up with a statement showing what are the costs and if the building is going to be finished. Two, let it be finished on time so that actually we can settle there. Many of us are still out there in rental offices, and yet you have not paid for our rent, and this is actually a problem. Because right now, the people who are asking for rent are actually, we normally bring the bill to the Parliamentary Service Commission and it's not yet paid. Can we have it done on time? Thank you.
Thank you. I now put the question. That Schedule 2 be amended as proposed by Hon Macau. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now proceed to put the question that Schedule 2 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next.
Title.
Very well. I propose the question that the title be part of the title of the bill. I put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose the question that Clause 1 be part of the bill. I now put the question that Clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Very well, members, and thank you very much. We are through. I now call the mover to report.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Very well.
The other one.
I put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments. I now put the question that as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Chairman.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the whole House has considered the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023, and approved the same with amendments.
Thank you. The mover.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I also request Honorable Dr. Pukose to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Honorable Bukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, I propose the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I now put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023, be now read at that time. I also request Honorable Murugara to second.
Honorable Speaker, I do second.
Honorable members, I propose the question, which is that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023, be now read a third time. I now put the question, which is that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023 be now read a third time. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the consolidated fund and their application towards the service of the year ending on the 30th June 2023 and to appropriate those sums for certain public services and purposes.
Thank you. Next. Honorable members, we have now finished the Appropriations Bill. Now I will, given the number of members who showed support for Honorable Mwalio's motion of adjournment, I will stay the next order, which is a continuing debate on the proposal to amend the Constitution, and move the House to start the debate on the motion of adjournment. I also want to encourage members that the subject matter that the Honorable Mwalio is bringing to the floor is highly emotive, definitely divisive, and I want to encourage all of you who want to contribute and who will contribute to moderate your language and speak on the matter with sobriety, maintaining the dignity of this House. And that being the case, then we will be guiding the country accordingly. No unnecessary passions, no unnecessary emotions, and let's avoid any unnecessary altercations between members. Honorable Mwalio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to move this motion by giving a background of the events. The Supreme Court, having okayed a plea as requested by the National Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission, NGIHRC, that the latter be registered as NGO by the NGO Coordination Board, whom and contested the request for registration due to some obvious violation of reflected in the Penal Code and such other acts, including but not limited to the NGO Coordination Act and the Sexual Offences Act 3 of 2006. Since the decision was pronounced, there has been a public outcry regarding the moral course we are taking as a country. Our principles, norms, values, and the practices have never been anchored on undefined and uncharacterized sexual orientation for as long as our existence can be traced and documented. It is prudent to note and appreciate that all acts of unnatural sex acts and associations have been criminalized in the Penal Code Chapter 63 Laws of Kenya, as further read with the Sexual Offences Act number 3 of 2026. The ruling by the Apex Court presents an unforeseen avenue to open a floodgate of unprecedented acts and activities where groups and associations are likely to register their associations, citing existence of the very right exercised by the National Gay and the Lesbian Human Rights Commission. The same shall be cited as a legal procedure to argue reasonable grounds for such a registration. In April 2nd, 2013, the National Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission, NGLHRC, attempted to reserve a name for registration as an NGO with the NGO Coordination Board, but the names were deemed unacceptable. In April 2013, after 3 attempts to change the name, National Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission sought services of an advocate and filed a petition at the High Court of Kenya, petition number 44 of 2013. In April 24, 2015, the High Court of Kenya delivered the first judgment from a 3-judge bench confirming freedom of association for people of diverse identities and expanding Article 27 of the Constitution to include non-discrimination of people. In April 2015, the NGO Coordination Board appealed the court decision at the Court of Appeal after they failed dissatisfied by the High Court findings. In March 29, 2019, the Court of Appeal dismissed Civil Appeal number 145 of 2019 and thus confirmed the right of association for LGBTQ people. Therefore, thereafter, the NGO Coordinator Board appealed the Court of Appeal decision to the Apex Court, the Supreme Court. February 24, 2023, just the other day, the Supreme Court of Kenya affirmed the decision of the High Court and the Court of Appeal to allow the registration of National Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission as an NGO with the words gay and lesbian in its title. In conclusion, if this matter is unmitigated, we risk to inject bad morals in the society to the unfounded natural basis, this poses even greater danger to the schools going children who are at high risk to adopt lifestyles which are erratic and contrary to their upbringing. In conclusion, the Bible says in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27 to 28, when God joined a man and a woman, he told them, multiply and fill the earth. Now, the question is, a man and a man, are they going to multiply and fill the earth? A woman and a woman, are they able to give birth and multiply as the Bible has said? Therefore, I want to move this so that we can be able to debate and advise this country and the people that elected us that we are not together with this judgment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Mwalio. So that we can get the perspective of the other religion, may we have Honorable Mishi Mboko, the MP for Likoni and Commissioner.
Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Chair wa Speakers Panel. Mimi nataka kuunga mkono Mheshimiwa kwa sababu ya kuleta hoja hii. Na hoja hii naona imezua tumbo joto sana katika nchi yetu kwa sababu imeweza kugusa mambo ya maadili yetu sisi kama Waafrika na sisi kama Wakenya, sisi kama Wakristo, sisi kama Waislamu na hata zile dini za kijamii. Kwa hakika sisi tunaheshimu mahakama. Lakini kwa sababu tunaheshimu mahakama, hatuwezi pia kukubali hukumu ambazo zimetolewa ambazo zitaathiri jamii zetu. Tunajua hivi sasa kabla ya LGBT ama hawa wanaojiita LGBT kuweza kupata vibali vya kuweza kutengeza makundi yao na kuweza kutambulika katika taifa letu, kumekuwa na tetesi na athari nyingi sana za mambo haya ambayo yako kinyume na dini yetu na yako kinyume pia na tamaduni zetu. Kwa Wakristo najua katika Biblia tunajua habari za Sodomo na Gomora. Na katika Kiislamu pia katika Quran tumeona mambo ya Sodomo na Gomora. Sasa je, leo watu hawa tukiwapa kipao mbele cha kuwapatia nafasi ama kuwapatia jukwaa ambalo wanaweza kuendeleza mambo yao ambayo ni mambo maovu, mambo machafu, mambo ya dhambi, je, taifa hili la Kenya tutakuwa tunasonga wapi? Taifa hili tumezungumzia kwamba lazima tuangalie takrimu za idadi ya Wakenya zinavyoendelea. Kwa sababu pia tumekumbwa na majanga mengi sana ya maradhi ya COVID, maradhi ya saratani na mambo mengi. Hivyo basi lazima tuangalie takrimu ya idadi yetu kupitia mazazi ama vile tunavyoweza kuongeza idadi ya Wakenya katika nchi yetu. Leo hii tunaambiwa ya kwamba watu hao watakuwa na uwezo wa kuwa na kundi lao, waweze kuendeleza hoja zao. Pengine swali tutauliza, wakiwa na makundi kama haya, hoja zao zitakuwa ni zipi? Swali litakuwa hoja zao ni kwamba sisi tumetengwa. Mumetengwa vipi? Wewe ukiwa Mkenya, ukiwa mke, ukiwa mume, haki zako zote za kimsingi ziko katika katiba na haki zako zimeangaliwa. Iwapo utasema ya kwamba tunataka makundi tutetee haki zetu, haki gani? Na kwangu mimi zitakuwa si haki, bali ni upotevu na ni madhambi makubwa sana ambayo tunataka kuyaidhinisha katika nchi hii. Tunajua makundi haya yamekuwa yakifanya kazi kisiri, yakiweza kufanya ile tunasema Kiingereza awareness, na wakifanya recruitment ama ile kuandikisha watu katika makundi yao ili kuwaingiza katika tabia potofu kama hizi. Leo tukiwapatia ruhusa muafaka ya kisheria ya kwamba tumewapatia nafasi muwe na makundi haya ama majukwaa haya na muweze kuzungumza mambo yenu ambayo mnayahitaji. Je, taifa hili la Kenya tutaweza kuwa katika hali gani? Mimi nataka kumuona kiongozi wa taifa hili akiweza kuzungumzia swala hili na akiweza kulikemea swala hili kama anavyosema yeye ni Mkristo ambaye ameshika dini sana, na iwapo ni Mkristo kweli ameshika dini sana, tunataka kusikia sauti yake na tunataka kusikia sauti ya taifa zima la Kenya likikemea jambo hili. Tunajua tunazungumzia ya kuwa ulimwengu umebadilika na kwamba kuna mambo mengi sana lazima yawe yanabadilika, lakini hatutakubali kubadilika kiwango cha kwamba tutakwenda kinyume na dini yetu na tutakwenda kinyume na maadili yetu sisi kama taifa. Ukiangalia katiba yetu kuna sura ambayo imezungumzia maadili ya kitaifa. Je, katika maadili ya kitaifa mumeweza kuona mambo ya wasagaji na mambo ya mashoga? Pole, kwa sababu lugha hino pengine itakuwa ni lugha potofu, lakini ndivyo inavyoitwa Kiswahili. Kwa mwanamume itakuwa ni mashoga, kwa mwanamke itakuwa ni masago. Na tunajua watu hawa, na katika haya mambo wanayofanya ni mambo mabaya ambayo pia yanatuletea maradhi. Sasa haswa kwa wasagaji, mambo wanayotumia na vifaa wanavyotumia ni kuleta saratani za kizazi katika kina mama, na jambo hili hatutaweza haswa kulikubali. Na haswa iwapo watu wetu wataiga tabia hizi na ziwaingie katika nafsi zao, basi itakuwa mtoto wa kike hatapata mume wa kumuoa na mtoto wa kiume pia hatapata mke wa kumuoa, kwa sababu athari huanza polepole. Unapoona moshi ujue moto uko njiani waja, na wakati umefika moto. Je, tutaweza kuzima madhambi hayo? Watoto wa kiume tunawaenzi, watoto wa kike tunawaenzi. Ndiposa Mwenyezi Mungu alipomuumba Adam na akamtoa Hawa kutokana kwa Adam, ili tuweze kuzaa na tuweze kuweka ulimwengu wetu katika hali ya usawa. Jamani, tunataka kusikia sauti ya rais ikikemea jambo hili. Tunataka kusikia sauti za mawaziri na vitengo vyote vya serikali na wabunge wenzangu, tukemee jambo hili. Jambo hili likiwa, basi sisi tumeangamia na umma wetu umeangamia. Hatutaweza kuwa na watoto wa kike wala mtoto wa kiume, manake kama mtoto wa kiume atavaa kama mtoto wa kike, kama mtoto wa kiume atataka kujiiga mpaka tabia za kike ndo azifanye, je, sisi tutakuwa watoto wa kike na wa kiume? Hilo ni swala nyeti na natafakari ya babu. Tujiangalie, tujinasue, tujiulize kama taifa, hata kama tunataka kusaidika, lakini hatutaweza.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Mboko kwa maono hayo. Mheshimiwa Rindikiri Mugambi, mjumbe wa Buri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I study as a Christian and one opposed to this movement, LGBTQ. I am very uncomfortable because our social fabric has been now attacked by an institution that we thought will put into consideration the survival of our generations. Mr. Speaker, what we have seen from the Supreme Court, tomorrow we will most likely get some human and animal movement, because there are some human beings with appetite for animals. They will also go to court. And if this being a case in court, it has sent some benchmarks. We should expect anything from our Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, I join the other members because this is a very serious matter. They have no regard on survival of humanity in Kenya. This behavior is a foreign behavior. It's a behavior that is common in most affluent communities. It is not common in rural areas. It's not common in areas that we all know preach religion, whether Muslim or Christianity or Hindu. More than 90% of Kenyans worship God. this section of perpetrators of this funny behavior, they don't even constitute 0.00001% of our population. I thought from where we come from, the Chief Justice is a mother. The Chief Justice of Kenya is a mother. The justice in Supreme Court, they are fathers and brothers and sisters. We are asking, did they really do that, knowing for sure that this matter is going to generate a lot of it in our circles? Mr. Speaker, I think time has come. We have to preserve our dignity as Kenyan. And we cannot allow, by whatever means, an institution in the name of Supreme Court that the judges are telling us you can proceed and do whatever sexual orientation that you have because there is human rights. I think there must be a limitation on human rights and association. I'm not a lawyer, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, you are a lawyer. But I'm sure in your understanding, that judgment did not take into consideration the implied expectations of majority of Kenyans. We ask that the Supreme Court reviews its judgment. We ask the Supreme Court to listen to the majority of Kenyans. We ask the Supreme Court to look at what the Constitution provides in terms of the human rights. This matter has been lying there for many years. It's only this Supreme Court, which are history of making funny judgment, they are brought to us. The Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Martha Koome, please go back again and look at that. You have condemned our society. You have condemned our lives for our children. You are telling us any Kenyan can do anything. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. I am ashamed. I am ashamed by the decision of the Supreme Court. And we must condemn this. And we must, if there is anything that should bring us together, is this. I'm also waiting for Baba to make a comment on this.
Thank you, Honorable Ndikiri, for urging everybody to make a voice on this, even as you do so. Honorable Wilberforce Oundo, MP for Funyula.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, thank you for my colleague for bringing up this motion on the floor of the House. Honorable Speaker, I'm a Catholic, born Catholic, and that I must declare my interest from the word go. And as Catholics, our dogma and the teaching is expressly clear on sexual orientation. There could be other Christian sects that have got a different view about this matter, but as our Catholic, that's my foundation. Starts from there. Honorable Speaker, in the book of Leviticus, it is written this way: if a man has a sexual relationship with another man, they have done a disgusting thing, and both shall be put to death. They are responsible for their own death. There's no other way, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when you look at the Constitution of Kenya on the national values, it's expressly clear. And I want to read Article 11 on the culture, and it's very clear. The Constitution recognizes, this Constitution recognizes culture as the foundation of the nation and as the cumulative civilization of the people of Kenya and the nation. Honorable Speaker, what does our culture say? Our culture say a man shall leave his father's house and together with the woman they find start at home. Our culture never contemplated and never talks of any other arrangement other than what is expected. Honorable Speaker, again in the same book of Leviticus, it says, if a man has social relations with an animal, he and an animal shall be put to death. Bad sexual habits or orientation are classified together. Honorable Speaker, whatever they're calling themselves, they are akin to bestialists. People who do bad manners, they would say, with animals. We categorize them as the same. Honorable Speaker, many of us were alarmed, were flabbergasted beyond recovery when we heard that Supreme Court ruling. And Honorable Speaker, we have been very suspicious of the current Supreme Court. And indeed, our fears have been confirmed. It is indeed, Honorable Speaker, probably might look at it the way the Supreme Court in the US is structured, so that we find a balance between alarmists, between members who simply want to destroy this society, and those of us who values the culture of the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, honestly speaking, I do not even understand it. There are some things that are beyond my understanding, regardless of my level of education and exposure. I cannot understand how a reasonable man, a sane man, can leave a beautiful woman. And if there's anything that God created, the best thing in this world, in the eyes of a man, was a woman. I cannot understand how a man can admire another man. I cannot understand, even look at the structure of the body of a woman, how a woman can admire another woman. I don't know what they do when they are together. Honorable Speaker, there are some things just don't understand. I'm not an advocate. Sir George is there. Truly, the Speaker is an advocate. You really have to guide us here. I'm just at a loss. I do not even know how to even talk to my grandchildren when they tell me that the Supreme Court has made some ruling. Honorable Speaker, we need divine intervention here. Unfortunately, some Christian denominations support this kind of deviant behaviors, and probably the Supreme Court and our young people are going to take cue from these masquerading churches that support this kind of thing, that in Western countries, they even contemplate and allow man and a man to attend a wedding. May the Almighty God strike them dead before sunrise. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Does the Leader of Majority want to contribute? Proceed, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, indeed, I want to contribute, Honorable Speaker, because this is a matter not just of faith, but also touches on our national morals, values, and our culture as a people. Let me just say from the onset, Honorable Speaker, I am a Presbyterian because I heard the member for Funyula say he's Catholic. I am member number 39 in Gikambura district of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, the Reverend Musagetao Church. And Honorable Speaker, those who advance those things, I don't even want to mention them, Honorable Speaker, have their own countries and they have their own cultures. And we respect their cultures, and they must equally respect our cultures as African and as Kenyans. And nobody should imagine that you can force down the throats of Kenyans alien cultures that are alien to our nationality and our being African, Honorable Speaker. The issues, Honorable Speaker, that the Supreme Court was addressing itself to, and I really want to avoid going for the Supreme Court in any manner because they have a duty and an obligation under the law to interpret the Constitution in the best way they think it should be interpreted. And I think even in the Supreme Court, opinion was varied. It's only that the majority decision had their say, but the minority also had, the majority had their way, but the minority also in the Supreme Court had their say. and I want to identify myself with the opinion and the views of the minority in the Supreme Court, Honorable Speaker, that we shall not allow and we must never allow our country to take up alien ideas, alien cultures, because we are a country that tends to copy a number of few things, good things, few from those other cultures. Honorable Speaker, our laws are quite clear. Our penal code still has outlawed issues to do with homosexuality. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, it was absurd that a good number in the Supreme Court did find it fit to allow a habit or something that is already outlawed under our laws, that you could now allow people to associate. What happens tomorrow, Honorable Speaker, if all the pickpockets in our streets decide now that they have rights as pickpockets and they want to form the Association of Nairobi Street Pocket Thieves, or even robbers, bank robbers? Tomorrow, robbers may decide that we have certain rights under the Constitution, the right to association. But, Honorable Speaker, the Constitution also says that your rights are limited.
Majority Leader, would that be the Bank Robbers Association of Kenya region?
It could be the Bank Robbers Association of Kenya, or rapists. Tomorrow, you may find rapists saying that we are the Association of Rapists of Kenya, and we have the right to do whatever we want to do with whoever we want to do it, Honorable Speaker. And they could argue that out in a court of law and say they are guaranteed of their right to association and freedom of association, Honorable Speaker. But we must also know that our Constitution also limits everybody's rights, and especially where your rights also, in a way, overstepped to interfere with my rights. And we have also to enjoy our religious rights, our rights to worship, our rights to our own cultures. We must protect our rights. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, as leader of majority in this House, for the time the Almighty God grants me the opportunity to serve this country as leader of majority, I will not allow, and I said elsewhere, I will mobilize this House and any other House in this Republic to ensure that we protect the laws that have outlawed homosexuality, lesbianism, and all those other things that are abominable under our culture and our religions, Honorable Speaker. And we must protect our cultures, Honorable Speaker, and our being as a people. If there is anything I agree with our good friend, President Yoweri Museveni.
Give him 1 minute, he's the majority leader.
I was saying, Honorable Speaker, if there is anything I support President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on, is on the issue of LGBT. Honorable Speaker, I will not go to the extreme in how you deal with them, but we must be forthright as a nation to protect our own cultures, our religion, and our beliefs, and we must not allow those countries from the West who believe in those things. Let them believe in whatever they want to believe in, but they must not force us to believe in the things they believe in. They must also respect our culture, our religion, and the things we believe in, but not shove things down our throats, the things we don't believe in. And we want to raise up our children in an upright country, in an upright society, Honorable Speaker, where our children will enjoy to grow the way we grew up, with morals, with good ethics, Honorable Speaker, and in a country that we can all be proud to raise our kids in, Honorable Speaker. With that, I support the Honorable Mwalio and this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Honorable Farah Malim.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know where the world is going to. Mr. Speaker, this is abominable. It's a decadent. It's an obnoxious behavior. I wish I had Babu Owino here to give me all those adjectives that he normally uses for these things. Mr. Speaker, those people are dead as human beings who support such things. In my faith as a Muslim, the death penalty is what they deserve, people who engage in such things. And I'm proud of that. And I don't care what somebody else feels. The West has never been a moral authority. These are the people who came and enslaved us. And they came and colonized us. And they came and treated us like animals. And now they want to tell us to behave like animals. The next thing that's going to come up...
Honorable Farah Malim, which animals engage in homosexuality?
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I withdraw that bit. I withdraw that bit in the interest and the respect for the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom never engages in that. But the next thing they're going to tell us is that somebody has a right, a man has a right to marry a woman. They want to tell us that a woman has a right, to marry another man, or a woman has a right to marry a woman. What do two women who are married do? What is there? God has created a man and a woman. It's there in all the Abrahamic scriptures. It's in Islam. It's in Christianity. It's in Judaism. If we allow them to take over our lives, we have allowed them for far too long for them to exploit us and to dehumanize us as human beings. On this, we will say no. If they're going to come up with the travel, restrictions, keep your country, keep your cultures, keep your nonsense to yourselves. And I'm talking to the West in this case here. Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court itself does not make laws, it interprets the laws. You're a legal mind, I'm a legal mind. Sodomy is a crime in our books. So how should they come about now and tell us that they should be allowed to associate? The right to association. As you had said, the majority leader has said, this is like saying the right of association of the bank robbers, of the murderers, of the killers. In the US, there are a number of states that have got the death penalty. And the death penalty is for crimes like murder. And the biggest number of people who are on the death rows are fellow blacks. In the US. And in Texas and a number of other states where they have Republican governors, they execute them. We cannot go there and tell them, don't take away life. They will tell you, these are our laws. Mr. Speaker, not only shall we come with a motion of censure on the Supreme Court itself for trying to legislate from the bench, instead of interpreting the laws of the country, they want to legislate from the bench by trying to look politically correct with the Western world. They do not deserve to sit as a bench. There is need for us to bring a motion on here to ask them, where did you get this piece of legislation? Here is the act that criminalizes homosexuality. We must take them to task on that. As for us, I am of the opinion that we should pass a capital punishment on such offenses. Capital punishment, Mr. Speaker. They have their own capital punishment on murderers, on other people. Most of them are blacks who have been framed in the US, and we cannot interfere in their laws. They go on killing those people there because they say they committed murders. Here we are telling them this thing is worse than murder for us in our cultures as Africans, as black people, as Mr. Speaker, can you give me 1 more minute as a ranking member and the former deputy speaker? Or 2 minutes for me, actually. And we have a right.
Honorable Farah Malim, the speaker has not spoken.
Oh, okay.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we take charge of our own destiny. We take charge of our own. They are going to legalize marijuana. They have legalized, what do you call anything? Very soon they're going to legalize the drugs that are going to destroy our generations and children in here.
It is, in my very humble opinion, that we take charge of our countries. We are independent. We are a sovereign state. We have our cultures. Our cultures do not conflict. African cultures on some of these fundamental issues are the same. It doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or a Muslim or you're a traditionalist. We all have a common culture on such things. It's my opinion, my humble opinion, that we should change that piece of act itself and prescribe capital punishment for people who can be proven to have engaged in this kind of things. When I say capital punishment, Muslims, where there's a serious Islamic states who follow their own scriptures, they carry out capital punishment on them. They do not deserve to live. In my opinion, humble opinion. They should be, yes, indeed. The next thing they're going to come to us is say that one has to be has the right to marry a dog, or one has the right to marry an ape, or anything. Just imagine a day in which somebody will come and say that this goat is my wife, or this what you call ram is my husband, and this is my right of association. I've chosen to have this as a husband, and a woman will come. That is the direction in which they're going. We are not going to be part of that. The earlier we put our foot down, they give us nothing. They only take away things from us. The earlier we put our foot very hard down and say, on this, no, the better. And I commend such countries like the president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, the president of Malawi. Of course, Mugabe was one guy who called out these things many years back and told them, these are nations of gays and what you call lesbians, and these are not people that we can talk to. It's something we frown upon. We see them as subhumans. How does a subhuman tell you what to do and how to live in your own lives? So we must be able to stand on our own grounds as a continent, as the leaders. We are the leaders of this country. That should never be allowed. They should never, ever be allowed to bring this decadent, obnoxious, un-African culture. Support.
Thank you, Honorable Farah Malim. The Chair of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, the Honorable Gitonga Murugara, the MP for Tharaka.
Thank you.
Is in the House now that we are talking about the Supreme Court, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, allow me to also voice my concerns about this decision, and from the outset say we are not, as a House, attacking the Supreme Court, but we are expressing a totally differing opinion with what they rendered. That we may not speak as a court, but we speak on behalf of our own people who have elected us to represent them here, and therefore our voice is the voice of the people, while their voice was actually the voice of the court. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the sentiments expressed by yourself and others that this is a decision that should not be left to stand in our books. We should move with speed, bring together the Supreme Court judges, the 7 of them, and let them listen to us as lawyers as we urge them to review the decision and set it aside. We know very well we cannot compare law with morality, but sometimes moral issues supersede the law. In fact, in most cases where the law becomes repugnant to morality, then that is extremely bad law and should be done away with. It is quite clear from our books that some of these things in LGBTQ are actually outlawed, and therefore anything associated with those characters cannot be allowed to stand against the morals of the people of Kenya. Whether it's sodomy, whether it's lesbianism, whether it's queerness, whether it is anything that is outward practiced by these characters who say they have human rights. They may have their rights in private, and I'm sorry, I shiver and shudder when I imagine what they do in private, because it is totally repugnant, especially to us Africans. It's also important to condemn those who come with these ideas. And this is why today we celebrate the president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni. We celebrate the late Robert Mugabe of Uganda. And sometimes it actually appears Idi Amin himself was a saint, because these are the things he was condemning those days, in spite of being incited by these same Europeans and Americans to kill a few Ugandans. Therefore, we as Africans must stand up. We must stand to be counted. We must tell these Europeans and Americans that for the little money they are enticing us with, I'm told they're even offering relief food to Kenyans so that you can legalize things like this one. They have been approaching our organizations, including the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, offering tokens so that they can promote rights of such characters. Thank heavens, these commissions and these organizations have said no to their little tokens. Let them keep their bad habits in Europe, in America. Let us as Africans keep what we consider to be morally upright and suitable for our society. For example, look at these people who are telling us today, these are human rights. They are the ones who came here, and the first thing they did was to point out that Africans do not marry out of love, but do purchase wives because they are polygamous. What is better compared to the two? Polygamy and such queerness they're advancing to us. Polygamy actually has nothing right, nothing wrong in terms of morals. It's upright. It should have been encouraged. Number two, they are the ones also who came along and told us that you people, you don't know how to live. Your customary laws are repugnant to justice and morality, and what have you. Those are the laws that had kept us Africans within the fabric of a good family, which we have maintained to date. Therefore, this judgment, this ruling, should actually be re-examined through a review. And if the review is denied, rest assured, as a house, we will move to outlaw everything they have done, because we have power to do so. I support the adjournment motion.
Thank you, Honorable Patrick Makau. Are you on intervention, or you want to contribute?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, I cannot add more. Most speakers have spoken. The first question you should ask, this parliament, we are the most important arm of this government. Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow the courts to legislate from their benches. Mr. Speaker, Article 11 is very explicit about respecting African traditions and cultures. Mr. Speaker, when I see the Supreme Court, which supposedly is supposed to be constituted of men and women, well learned, cannot lead this country to making us believe that lesbians, gays, queers, and those likes are supposed to be given end space in this country. Mr. Speaker, that is not African, it is an African. And there is no religion which ascribes to any of those. Mr. Speaker, it's high time this parliament expressed itself in all ways, in all media houses, in barazas, Mr. Speaker. We must condemn that ruling by the Supreme Court. And Mr. Speaker, it's high time the Attorney General of this country went to appeal this ruling, because those 5 judges who passed this kind of judgment, Mr. Speaker, he favored a group of people that is going to encourage other groups. Mr. Speaker, then we should have the Mungiki, we should have Al-Shabaab, we should have rapists, we should have murderers, allowed then by the same Supreme Court to form alliances, to form associations. Mr. Speaker, when I look at that bench, none of them is less than 40 years. Mr. Speaker, what are they telling our young children? What are they telling the generations? Mr. Speaker, I'm now been made to believe that the former president of USA, Donald Trump, did not support this. Neither is Museveni. Mr. Speaker, I agree with speakers here who are saying we should not just be made slaves because we need funding from the West. Mr. Speaker, this thing of us being told before we are given money from IMF, from World Bank, we must admit, we must accept these laws. This is strange to us. Mr. Speaker, we must tell them, I know they force us GMOs, and we know the reason why they did that. Mr. Speaker, now they are here telling us we should have a man and a man marry each other. Mr. Speaker, I can't imagine myself seeing a man and having a hard-on. Mr. Speaker, that is against African tradition. I must see a woman and feel like that. Mr. Speaker, I am a watcher and I'm a fan of National Geographic, which has documentaries. You see male animals being attracted to females, fighting to death. I have never seen a male animal raising to satisfy itself sexually on another male animal. So what are they telling us, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, this country, and I want to hear the leadership of this country speak against this. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I think the president of this country should write immediately to the Attorney General to appeal this ruling. It cannot be bearable. Yes, Kenya is a Christian nation. It has Muslims. It has all denominations. But Mr. Speaker, our constitution is supreme. Article 11 explicitly said it. The Ashpal guy spoke about it, his commission, the bombers 1 and 2, they were against this. How can we then, 2023, admit the gays and lesbians of this world to rule this country? Mr. Speaker, on this seat where I sit from, I am telling people who I represent from Mavoko, if you see gays and lesbians, tell them to be wary of me, because I'm going to tell you what you are going to do with them. So are Kenyans. We cannot allow that, Mr. Speaker. We must condemn this ruling by all means, even if it means us calling those judges to apologize to Kenyans and say they judged and they ruled when they were not sober, Mr. Speaker. Then is when we are going to agree with their ruling. However, Mr. Speaker, this House has a role to legislate and make laws that befit this country. Let's not forget our mandate. Let us stand by the virtues and...
Honorable Joanna Ngeno.
Speaker, thank you also for allowing me to ventilate on this. I just want to say from the onset that Article 1 of the Constitution, which talks about the supremacy of the Constitution and supremacy of the people, when it talks about the supremacy of the Constitution, it says clearly that this Constitution is supreme to any other law. And no law, including customary law, is superior to the Constitution. And any other law that is actually trying to supersede the Constitution is null and void. Mr. Speaker, when you talk about the customary law, it is the same as talking about any other law that is created in this House. We are the people who do the laws of this land. We amend the laws, we create the laws, but if that law goes against the Constitution of this country, Mr. Speaker, it is declared null and void. Same case with the laws which are made by the courts, whether it is a magistrate's court, whether it is a high court, whether it is a Supreme Court, whether it is a court of appeal. Whenever they pass any judgment, most of their judgments are deemed to be precedences, and they are used in courts or other courts as a law. So, Mr. Speaker, the ruling by the Supreme Court, whichever way it was, has gone against the Constitution, Article 11. And therefore, it means that judgment which was made by the Supreme Court is null and void because it is against the Constitution. And there is nothing else we can say about it. We will still consider in this House that that law never existed. That judgment was never made. We just considered as if there was nothing done. As if the Supreme Court judge, as if there was 6, if there was 7, they sat in vain. Whatever the decision they made in that particular judgment, it was done in vain. Because Article 11 is very clear. No same-sex marriage is allowed in this country. No same-sex relationship is allowed in this country. No same-sex penetration is allowed in this country, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, when these particular courts declare or presume to be making a declaration that they are making a judgment, they are giving a ruling that we allow these people to have a relationship, we allow these people to look at one another, we allow these people to have some association. Mr. Speaker, that is going contrary to the Constitution. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would want to say, just like what my senior said, do we need to tell these judges to revoke? Do we need to create what we call review? Or do we need to pass in this House, Mr. Speaker, because there was, and I don't want to preempt, there is an intention by a member to pass a law, to bring a law into this House, Mr. Speaker, that will illegalize any act of either association, either penetration, either marriage, on all these people who call themselves, I don't know, gay, I don't know, lesbians. Mr. Speaker, I think we will pass that law with God's speed. And it will be now upon the courts to make a decision whether that passage of that law or whether that law is against the Constitution. We are waiting for that time. We are really waiting, Mr. Speaker. And I don't know if some of these decisions are based on whatever these people want to give to our country. Some of us may not want to be beggars. Some of us may not want to sell our birthright. Some of us may not want to exchange our humanity with money. We want to tell the Supreme Court, read the Constitution, Article 11, same-sex marriage is illegal, same-sex association is illegal, same-sex penetration, Mr. Speaker, is illegal. I thank you very much.